So my contact at Baryonyx asked me if I want to try out one of their axes. And I'm like, what makes you think I like axes? Totally not my thing. All right, so this is the Rinaldi Trento felling axe. It's not designed as a weapon, it's not a battle axe, which is what I would normally focus on. But every now and then, taking a look at a good tool is not something I would pass up. And so, of course, my perspective is going to be a little skewed here because I'm more familiar with historical and fantasy weapons than tool axes, but I've used some here and there. I don't have as much experience as somebody who heats with wood and chops a large volume regularly and splits a lot and all that. So I have limited experience, and you should keep that in mind. But I'll do what I can to give you a reasonable impression of this axe. So the first thing, of course, that sticks out is the curved handle. Now, it normally comes with a straight handle, just the curved handles are also available, and they sent me this one for review specifically to see what it's like. So it seems there is some disagreement on the benefits of curved versus straight axe handles. I've seen some debates on the internet, since this is curved back. Normally, the axe head would be further forward in relation to the hand. Because the axe head is more retracted, you basically get a longer arc of swing before the edge connects. So you have more time to accelerate it, basically. Now, how much of a difference does it make in practical terms? I doubt it's really all that much different. It's very easy to look at something like this and overanalyze it. And I mean, I'm sure physicists and engineers can go into great detail about how it changes the pivot point and all of that. I'm sure there are some practical considerations of that. In terms of feel, this compared to a straight handle, when I chop, I don't actually feel as much of a difference as I would have expected, really. I mean, it does feel different, of course, but I don't think I can hit harder or less hard or it's quicker or anything like that. I feel like that's really more determined by the shape of the axe head than the handle necessarily. What I do notice, of course, is as you slide the hands up and down during the swing, feels a little strange for the hand to go in a bit of a curve, but doesn't really bother me. Somebody with a lot of experience with a wide variety of felling axes could probably tell you more about that. For me personally, I think I would prefer the straight handle because it's more straightforward, but also mainly because of one disadvantage that this has, which I'll get back to later. So let's just take a look at the axe head for now. This is really impressive. This has a very good edge. I think this is the special grade edge. They have an option for that where they refine the factory edge. And yeah, you can tell this is definitely a much better edge than you see on 80% of axes on the market. I mean, I should say at least 80% of what I've tested so far. This is a very, very common problem with axes on the market, that they come with a terrible blade geometry. This one here is really good because it tapers properly and it's not overly thick. I've had some axes where the blade is really thick and then they put a strong secondary bevel right on the edge with a really bad angle that makes it likely to glance off and not bite in properly. That can actually be a danger to the user. This one here has a nice convex taper toward the edge and it's a sharp edge. Like, it's not shaving sharp, but the way it came, it was perfectly good. And after the test, it has also held up well, so there's no edge damage or wear, of course, it's going to dull a little bit. But if you do have a good angle on there, you don't have to do a whole lot to touch it up. You don't have to regrind the entire thing. And that's what I found with a lot of axes on the market, where you have to change the entire geometry. You have to regrind the whole damn thing to make it effective. This is perfectly good. You just have to touch it up every now and then. You don't have to change it altogether, and that's great. And this one cuts beautifully. In fact, this is either the best or the second best axe that I've tried. The Vindsvept, of course, was great. Those axes are always high quality, and that one chops really well. In fact, the two are probably comparable. This is a more powerful cutting axe simply because it's larger. It's for felling trees. It's not just for chopping limbs and such. So this, of course, is gonna have more power, a bit over 4 pounds, whereas the Scandinavian forest axe from Vindsvept that I've tried, Swedish axe, is substantially smaller. So this one, of course, is gonna win. What I will say that this one does not have a finish as nice as the Vindsvept, because this here is pretty rough. I think the idea with that was just to save money, because this thing is pretty affordable, really, for an axe of this quality. It's $85 US, if I remember correctly, on the Baryonyx website. I'll link it down below. That, for a felling axe, is pretty good. The Swedish axes tend to be over 100. Most really quality felling axes that I've seen are generally over 100. And I mean, yeah, sure, you can go to the hardware store and pick up a 30 or 40 buck axe. Chances are that's not going to be a felling axe, it's going to be a chopping axe, but so it's going to be smaller and lighter. I mean, there are, of course, decent cheap tools, but you do get what you pay for. And this here, in my opinion, is well worth the money, considering how well it chops. It's a remarkably comfortable handle. It's got an oval or really more rounded rectangular cross section. And that gives you a really good grip, makes you able to control the edge, and there's very little hand shock. In fact, that's one of the arguments that I've seen made for a curved handle. Supposedly it transfers less shock to the hands, and I really didn't notice much of anything, so that could be true. But I also don't really remember getting a lot of hand shock from straight handled axes that I've tried before. But either way, comfortable to use. Also, I do like the way the handle is attached, because this is basically a tomahawk style hafting. The axe widens toward the top, so you just slip the bottom end through the eye of the axe head and then tap it on the ground or a wood block or something to seat it, and that's it. And it's very secure if you do it properly, and it's not going to come off, but you can still remove this pretty easily, which is much less of a hassle than driving in a wedge, and then whenever you have to replace the handle, you have to drill it out and all that. This you can very, very quickly and easily replace, which is good, because the first handle that I got broke. I think the problem is that the curvature doesn't perfectly follow the grain. It does mostly, but I can see that the grain is more or less straight here, and that's where it broke. It wants to follow that. And that's the issue with a curved handle. It tends not to be as durable as straight handles. I see the same issue here. Now this one I tested after the first one, after that broke. And this one seemed fine. I have not broken this yet. But when I look at the grain, I have a feeling this is going to be just a matter of time. Maybe you can see that on camera here. So there's a darker grain that basically runs like this. It does not perfectly follow the handle, which is difficult to do with a complex shape like this. So this is probably going to break too with use. So personally, I would rather go for the straight handle. It's just more of a risk with this, and I don't think you really get all that much more benefit out of it. So I like how it looks. it's pretty neat, and the handling is interesting, and there might be some mechanical advantages to it, but I just go with the straight one. Either way, the axe head itself is great. It's made of spring steel, very strong, durable, and yeah, it's got a good shape to it. Really, the only thing I could nitpick about this is that it's a very rough finish. You can see a lot of grind marks all over the place. So it's not the prettiest thing, which is also why I haven't really bothered cleaning it extremely thoroughly, because it's not a looker. You know, it's a doer. That doesn't sound right, but either way, aesthetics is not the strong side of this axe, and it doesn't have to be. It's going to be dirty, it's going to be covered in sap and whatnot, so who cares, right? Personally, I certainly don't. The axe head itself is perfectly good. It's good steel, it's solid, so I don't anticipate any issues with it. The edge holds up very well, and it's also devastating on a zombie head, very much so. As you would expect from an axe this size, of course it's powerful. You can even cut tatami mats with it. That is pretty amazing, and it cuts them cleanly too. That's a testament to how well the edge is done on this. The mat wouldn't even have moved if the top of the handle hadn't knocked it around. By the way, in case you're wondering if this would make for a good battle axe, you know, like if a Viking could grab this and go on a raid, well, not really with this handle, in my opinion. A longer straight handle, I mean, it could be curved, but a longer handle would be better, because this would put you at a disadvantage against something like a Dane axe. They tend to be long. This axe head is heavier than Dane axes tend to be. They're actually surprisingly light. They are made pretty thin because they're meant to go up against flesh and bone rather than wood. But I think this is still perfectly fine. With a long handle, this is very maneuverable still, and you could strike with that easily without getting tired out. So I think that would still be good. So if you wanted to, you could get this as a fun tatami backyard cutter. It's an option. But of course, it's designed for chopping wood mainly, and it does that very well. So yeah, that's really it. Aside from the rough finish and the durability issue with the curved handle, no complaints here. It's reasonably priced, in my opinion. I mean, if this was $60, this would be amazing, but I think 80 something is perfectly good for what it is, and yeah, I would recommend it. Just one more thing to mention: a few people contacted me saying that they've been waiting for a Baryonyx machete that they ordered a while ago that still hadn't arrived, and they were worried that it might be some kind of scam. And so I asked them. The issue was simply they did not expect the volume of orders that they got in after the video I made about the machete from Baryonyx. So like the Kingfisher as well as the other machete. So they have been behind, and of course the COVID situation doesn't help that. So they've been struggling to keep up with the orders. So keep that in mind. If you expect a very quick turnaround time, you might not want to order this right now, because it's going to take a while. It might take several months even for them to catch up with the orders. So keep that in mind. They are not scammers. They are not trying to take your money and run away with it. They're exceeding capacity. So it's definitely not an ideal situation. And again, if you want it quick, maybe don't order. But otherwise, if you have the patience and if you want a good axe, I would definitely recommend that, and you can check it out in the link down below. So, hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, folks.